All right, welcome everyone to our training on how to break into private aviation in 6 weeks or less. I am going to be giving you some action steps if you feel stuck, if there's something that you need some encouragement on, like I'm missing something. I thought this would be a lot easier. Let's say I've paid the $5,000 to get my safety training, and I thought I would be able to get a job right away, and nothing's happening. I'm here to help debunk some of those myths of just submitting resumes thinking that if you just keep applying and keep applying, or that it's just going to a job is magically going to apply and fall in your lap. And that is not the case at all whatsoever. So I am going to start sharing my screen right here. And let's get started. So I'll start with a personal story just so you know and understand that I am coming from I've been in your shoes. So several years ago, I was living in Arkansas, and for about 2.5 years, I was submitting resumes. I was probably submitting at least, oh gosh, it was every day. It was very consistent. Every day I was submitting resumes. I was on LinkedIn. I was on Indeed. I was on Facebook. I couldn't figure out what I was missing. So, and then here I am sitting, I'm in Arkansas. I'm in my rundown apartment. And there's like tears streaming down my face that there was one particular rejection letter that I got. Like I was surprised. Like I even got a response because I'm submitting resumes, and sometimes I don't even get a response from someone of did you even get my resume? So there's one particular one where I got a rejection, and there's tears streaming down my face, and I'm like, what am I missing? Like, what am I missing? Like I have been doing this for 2.5 years, submitting resumes, and nothing's working. Like I can't even get someone's attention to even look at me. And because I felt like I was qualified, like I felt like I would do a good job, or I was a quick learner if there was something that was missing. So I got to thinking, there has got to be something more to this. Like if I'm submitting all of these resumes and nothing's happening, there's got to be more than this. So I took drastic measures. I sold everything that I owned and got in my 99 white Buick and drove to Florida, and you know what? I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna get in front of people and show them, just figure out what I'm missing. And the kicker to this story is that when I got to Florida, I got my first job within 3 weeks. And it's not a fluke thing. It was a matter of I was in a spot where things were not happening, and I was doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it wasn't working. But when I went to Florida and started getting in front of people, I was like, this is what's up. Like there's something to this. Now that I've actually taken drastic measures, there's actually something to this. So I also got to thinking, and I just started noticing, that wasn't just a fluke thing where I got one job. I have sustained a living in South Florida since that time of taking that drastic action of getting in front of people and staying committed. And I got to looking in the Facebook groups and the WhatsApp chats, and I know I'm not the only one struggling with this. So, and that's the kicker, is there was no response. I was like, how do I even know that they've got it? And like I said, I know that I would be dying. So what am I missing? So here's what I want to emphasize to you, is that you could have all the training and experience in the world. You can come from the best commercial airline, even in Europe, or from Emirates. I think it was the best of the best to be from. Or you can have the hospitality experience at the Four Seasons Hotel, or you could pay your $5,000 for safety training. You can pay your $5,000 for Da Vinci, for the culinary. You can spend all of this money, but the kicker is a famous quote, or from a famous billionaire, is if they don't know you, they can't flow you. And it kind of sounds kind of funny, but it's the basis is if you don't get your face physically in front of people, the chances of you being hired are really, truly slim to none. So if you don't take anything, I think there's another slide, but I want to make sure to emphasize this, that if you don't take anything from today's training, it is, you have got to get in front of people. It is more than just submitting resumes and looking for them. I'll get to this in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. So what does this mean, and what do I need to do about getting physically in front of people? So before I get into that, this is where I was going with, like, the problem with today's industry, like nude industry, corporate flight attendants, and the reason I'm sharing this is so that way you can learn from it and not do not to do these things. First, do double check your resume, because it could be your resume. It is very much about getting in front of people, but you got to have a dynamite resume. You have to have one that is easy to read. And I go through all of that in my mentorship training about what makes a dynamite resume, where people actually go, ah, this girl's got it, or this guy's got it. They know what's going on. You have to have a good resume. That is important. Lacking courage. We're in an industry today where we are stuck behind our computer. We feel like we can just sit here and submit resumes at our computer, or we can network on the WhatsApp chats or whatever. But there's, like, I'll be honest with you, this takes courage to do a webinar like this, do a training with you. Even though I'm successful and I'm good at what I do, this takes courage. And let this be like an example for you, that it takes getting out of your comfort zone and putting yourself in front of people. It is so easy just to stay behind the computer and fill out applications, especially that's how the jobs come out, is through Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever. But what if I told you that there are jobs that don't even get posted? And that's quite a bit. There is and we're in a very lucrative industry where it is very much about the fit. It's not about whether you have your safety and culinary training or whatever, even your hospitality experience at the Four Seasons or wherever it is. It truly is about the fit. And when the fit, and I get into that as well in our mentorship program. But whenever you are actually getting in front of people, you start learning about these quote unquote secret jobs, because it comes down to, like, who is this person and where they are. Like I said, in order to not make the mistakes, you need to know them, so that way you can avoid them. So in order to be widely recognized in business, and when you see BizAv, it's business aviation. So I want you guys to take notes. I'm going to give you 4 to 6 different things that you can be doing today to start taking action. But the first thing, as I'm emphasizing again, you must have the ability to network. It is the #1 key to being hired in private aviation, period. Full stop. Even you could have a crappy resume. You could even not have all of the experience. But if there's somebody that knows you, who you are as a person, let's say you're I'm gonna use this example. Let's say you are an empty nester. You're a mom that everybody has left the nest, and you don't have your safety training, you don't have the culinary experience, you don't even have hospitality experience, but you raised 5 kids. And so you can do mom stuff like nobody's. I could not do mom stuff. I do not have children. So you could do mom things better than I could. So let's say there's a Part 91 account, which those Part 91 means a private jet owner has a family. They have 5 kids. Let's say they even have 2, and they need someone that's good with children. They need someone that has life experience. That's where you would come in. It doesn't matter. That's where you would come. And the only way that you would probably find out about that particular job is if you were networking and meeting people in the industry. Again, you must network. Okay. I'm going to emphasize this one more time. It is not what you know, but who you know. All right. If you've been in the Facebook groups, there's several of them, and I see this common, and it kind of frustrates me a little bit, being completely honest. And they will tell you just got to keep applying, and then they'll say you just got to network. You got to network. But what does that really mean? Like, what does that mean? Do I network on the WhatsApp chats? Do I network at conventions? And where are the conventions? What are they? Like, what does network mean? I mean, do I go introduce myself to my neighbor, to the people in my neighborhood? What does it mean? So that's what I'm going to help clear some things up today about what does networking actually mean. And today I'm going to teach you 6 distinct ways in how to network and market yourself. So that way I'm a big believer in having action steps. This is such a industry that it's challenging to stay motivated as you're trying to get into the industry. And so it's very helpful to have, like, okay, whenever this webinar is over or this training, whatever it is, like, this is what I'm going to do. Step 1, this is what I'm going to do. And then after that, I'm going to do step 2, and then I'm going to do step 3. It's a sense of accomplishment there's a feeling inside of you like, okay, I'm actually doing something. I'm actually progressing forward. So this is my promise to you. In the next few minutes, you will learn one thing to do to stand out from the rest, and no one else is teaching this. The number one key to getting hired and how to do it. And again, most are not doing this. Be seen and cut through the noise, because there's a lot of new to industry flight attendants and it feels like it's very noisy. Just looking at LinkedIn, I'll watch the comments. There's people that I'll see that are commenting often and they're like, are they really going to be seen? But just to cut straight through the noise and start like, hey, I got recognized today. How to get real hands-on experience in the industry fast, because I see that question a lot as well. And that, how do I get, like, these people are asking, like, that's common specifically for the Part 91 accounts. They'll ask for you to have 4 to 6 years experience. There are story after story after story of flight attendants that have been in the industry for 6 months and they get hired for a Part 91 account. It comes back to who you know. But in order to get that being right in front of the right person and able to have that hands-on experience, I will talk about that as well today. How to find a gateway job. I don't hear that very often of people teaching about like getting a job before being a private flight attendant, but doing another job in the industry. I will talk about that today and how it is specifically helpful. And then meet the very people you want to get in front of to help you put your best foot forward. I also want to remind everyone that everything you do is an interview. I wasn't cognizant of this in the very beginning. I was just hungry, and that was what was blinding me, was my hunger. So as a reminder today, everything you do is an interview, because you never know who's watching. You really don't. We don't know who else is in this chat. We don't know who I do. I know who else is the participants in this chat. I know who they are, but you don't. You don't know who's in here. You don't know, there could be recruiters in here. There could be somebody that knows of a Part 91 account or even a charter position that's available, and they're looking and they want to see your face. They're like, I see that person. I want to know what they're about or where they come from. So always, 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 that is one commonality, and I don't find them very often between commercial and corporate. Like they give you the scare tactic in commercial of that you always want to be on your best behavior on the way to the interview. But this goes a little bit deeper, because it's like a very segmented time frame of like the moment you board the plane and you're on your way to the interview. Somebody's watching you or whatever. And I remember being so terrified. I'm a former Delta flight attendant, FYI. I didn't share that before. So I remember being absolutely terrified of like, who's watching me? And I was on my absolute best behavior to the point that it made me where I was not probably performing to the best of who Natalie truly is, because I was operating out of fear. But this, I want it to be more of a comforting thing of like, there are people watching, even if they're not saying anything. There are people that just that creep. I don't know what other word right now to use, but they're just always watching and seeing how they interact with people. If there's like, for example, there's someone that has just posted that they're excited because they got a new job as a 135 or 91, and they're watching who's actually encouraging them, who's excited with them, who's supporting them, or are they having like more of the like, why isn't it happening for me yet? It all comes back to you. That's how the universe works as well. If you are supporting other people, it will come back to you. So as a kindness, I'm asking you, do I have your permission to teach you these things? Because if you do take these things to heart, even if we don't work together in a mentorship, these are things that you can do today that will start having people come to you to fill your calendar. And I say fill your calendar because I've always worked as a contractor. There are different ways that you can work in the industry as either full-time or contract, as charter or Part 91. But there will come a point that if you really master these networking skills, there will be people that come to you and say, can you work this trip? Or they know that they can count on you because they know what kind of performance you will do on the job. So the networking tip number 1 is LinkedIn. That's where to start. I'm going to start with the digital part, the digital aspect of it, and then I will go into the physical aspect of it. So this is where you start, and this is where a good majority of you are already doing. You're already in the LinkedIn part of networking. Like I said, I'm a big believer in action steps. So starting like step number 1 that you can do, you can look for me on LinkedIn, Natalie Rader, and then connect with me. And when you connect with me, then go to my connections of like, who am I connected with? I encourage you to look for more than just flight attendants, because flight attendants are great to have. They're the ones that help you. Like we work together, like just for example, Lauren is a fellow flight attendant. She is in Ohio and I'm in South Florida. So when she sees South Florida trip, she references me. and vice versa. When I see Ohio trips, I reference her. So yes, it is good to have your flight attendant network. However, I'm encouraging you to broaden it to more than just that, but do pilots, because pilots have a huge, huge say in whether you're going to be on board or not. They don't always, but most, like I would say 90% of the time, they have a say of whether you will be on board their aircraft, because you guys work as a team. That is what's different from commercial. Another example from being different from commercial, that cockpit door is closed. Like there's a whole thing that you got to do just to open the cockpit. But on a private jet, that door is open and you guys work together. You help get luggage on board. You help get the catering. If you guys need to go shopping on a layover, you guys do it together. So if you don't get along with, my whole point is that if you don't get along with that pilot, or the pilot doesn't get along with you, that they're not going to contact you. They're not going to call you for trips. So my point, make connections with pilots, make connections with recruiters. If there's specific management companies or operators that you have your eyes on, look for who the HR people or even the recruiters, that they will say it in their job title. Go connect with them, message them and say, thank you for connecting with me. I look forward to learning from you. I look forward to learning more about you, but make it all about them. Send the DM and make the connection about them if like you're excited to learn from them or whatever. Like and comment on people's posts. If you are not familiar with LinkedIn, I encourage you to start watching from the people that you've connected with. They will like and comment on posts, and it will show at the very top that one of your connections liked or commented on a specific post and you're not connected with them. So whenever you do that, whenever you are commenting on someone else's post, someone else that's connected to them will see you. Social media can get really, really deep, but that's one example. And do this every day. This is something I talk about in the mentorship program, is branding yourself. Like you are branding yourself whether you know you are or not. Like you might come in and like, I don't know anything about branding. I don't know anything about what to do about that. So that in itself is branding yourself, that you don't know what you're doing. So start at the top and brand yourself in that you're always an encourager. You're always encouraging people. You're celebrating people. You are supporting people, whatever it may look like. But start the branding on a positive note that you are a team player. Facebook and WhatsApp. Facebook has kind of gone down a little bit in the networking aspect of it, but I still put it on here because that is actually where that's where I got a lot of my stuff in the beginning, stuff meaning trips, work. But there has been times that one specific time that I had somebody reach out to me that was like what you call a secret job. And they wanted me to work for them. And they saw that I was an encourager or I was supporting. I don't remember specifically what the post was about, but she says, I loved how you were in working with people and like you encouraged people and you supported them. And I know that's what the team player, like the company that she was recruiting me for, like that's how they are. Like you have to be a team player. So if she says, if you're doing it digitally on Facebook, I know that you'd be 1,000,000% better in person. So that's why I still put Facebook on here, because people, we just don't, you never know who's watching. And then WhatsApp. So there are WhatsApp chats. I'm sure some of you probably came from a WhatsApp chat that was I posted in there that I was doing this training today. There is one specifically that is very broad and that has good tips in it. So there, if you want to know what that is, you can message me later and I'll be happy to share that link with you. And then also on Facebook, and this actually goes across all social media platforms, is create a profile picture that is, first of all, professional and it looks aviation related. If you've not been on a private jet or you don't have any kind of that type of photo to have a completely clear background, like make a white background, stand against a white wall and take your head and shoulder shot. Now, take that photo and put it across all of your platforms, every single one. If you look at me and like for the LinkedIn and WhatsApp and Facebook, they all have the same photo. So that way, when you do meet people in person, I cannot tell you how many times people have said, oh, I know who you are. I've seen you before. I haven't seen your and then I'll show them the profile pictures. Like, is this what you see? Like, yes, that's you. So that's part of the other part of the branding aspect of it. So find a profile photo that you can put in all of your spots. And then specifically Facebook, put like a, I don't know, just a Gulfstream, some kind of aviation related cover photo. So that way, when you are commenting in the Facebook groups, they see that you truly are someone that's in the aviation industry and not some weirdo. There you go. All right, networking tip number 3, branding yourself. I've already talked about this a little bit, but you are your own business. Even if you are full-time with a charter company, you are your own business. I did talk about this, making all your social media platforms uniform. Same profile photo. And then the other part I missed was location. Put your location. Where are you based? If you see in the WhatsApp chat, I specifically, and Lauren does too, we have our airport code, Natalie Rader, KPBI, which is Palm Beach, flight attendant. So that way when people, it's part of the branding as well, that when people are, let's say there's an ASAP trip out of Palm Beach, they know from just based on me commenting in the WhatsApp chat that they, oh yeah, there is a Palm Beach flight attendant in there. But putting your location base is really important as well, because whenever there is a ASAP trip, which is, to be clear, an ASAP trip is something that's popped up where you need to be out the door within probably 24 hours. I've had less than 24 hours. I've had them call and say, can you run to the airport now? Literally within, can I get out the door in 30 minutes? And 30 minutes is too long. So whenever, the whole point is that whenever the operator or the employer is in that position, they need to have something on top of mind, which I also go into that in the mentorship of how to stay top of mind. And they're like, I've seen this person with the Palm Beach or wherever it is, they've seen it on there and that they know to reach out to you. You never know what will come of that. Okay, this is where I talked about gateway job and then also how to get hands-on experience. There's a couple ways of approaching this. You can go visit your FBO and just make friends with the CSR. And because first of all, just learn who they are. What is their job like? Who do they see? Go visit with them. Some of them are not always approachable, but the experience that I've had in approaching them, most of them are willing to help. They're willing to visit with you because they've also been trained in hospitality. They're dealing with the 1% of the world. So they have to be kind, basically. So there's that aspect of it, but then also this is sometimes where people will back off from me and they're like, Natalie, I don't want to do this. If that's the case, I question whether you really want to be in this industry or not, because this industry is a hustle. So let's put that aside and let's pretend that you do want to do something like this. Customer service rep, you can learn so much. Let's say you have no aviation experience, like zero, zilch, none. You can learn so much from working in an FBO. So like valuable information, so whenever someone does call you for a trip, you actually know how to talk to them and not sound like a fool. Like, you know, the lingo, you know what you just, it's a lingo. Any industry that you're in, there's a certain language that takes place. So whenever you can get a job at an FBO as a customer service rep, because they are the first ones that are in contact with people that come in the FBO. So like, think of it this way, an FBO, which a fixed base operator, backing up a minute, fixed base operator, which is an executive airport. The customer service rep is the person that connects the crew, the catering, anything that needs to be delivered to the aircraft for the trip to take place, and then the passengers or the guests. So they're the one that connects everyone. So think about it. If you are in that position working, you come across all kinds of people, and you never know where it will lead. My favorite story to share about this is I have a flight attendant friend that's how she got her Part 91 account, as being a CSR. There was a new private jet owner that was relying on a management company to find a flight attendant for them. And I don't know the stories, like were they taking too long or whatever, but he loved who she was behind the counter as far as her being kind. There was a vibe, there was a fit. And he hired her. He's like, I want you to come work on my private jet. And she flew for them for 2 years. And then he sold the plane. Point being is that that's how she got her job, was being in front of the right person at the right time. And that's another thing too for another day. It's all about timing as well. The second job that you can get at an FBO is become a line tech. It is grunt work. So depending upon where you are in the country, something to keep in mind as well, but it also shows that you're willing to hustle, you're willing to work, you're willing to do the dirty work, and you're willing to make things happen in your life. It shows a tremendous amount of respect that if you're willing to do this. So to further explain what a line tech is, they are the ones that are the liaison between the FBO and the aircraft. So whenever the flight attendants and the pilots come in, they ask for, there's all kinds of stuff the pilots will be asking for. fuel and so on and so, and potable water, all those kinds of things. And then the flight attendants will be asking for coffee, ice, and papers. I'm talking too fast, slow down. So the line tech is the person in between the FBO and the aircraft that will deliver the things that the crew needs to make the aircraft go with the guests. So that's what I'm talking about, the grunt work. So if you are in sunny Florida in the middle of the summer, you need protective gear. You need to learn how to protect your skin from the sun. But if you are in Bozeman, Montana at Christmas time, learning how to protect yourself against the elements of winter. Again, thinking it from a hiring standpoint, people will see that you are willing to work and you're willing to put in the dirty work. The other point to being a line tech is you have priceless aviation experience from that, and that you can start instantly seeing the difference between a Challenger and a Gulfstream. Right now, you may not have a clue what that means. You may not know, even begin to know the difference between the two. But if you are in and out of those aircrafts, not in and out, normally they stay on the outside, but they're right there within that galley door or the boarding door of the aircraft. They have that ability to be able to see the difference between just a Challenger and a Gulfstream. That would be something, let's say if you're stuck behind a computer filling out applications and sending in resumes, you wouldn't have a clue. You may have had your flight safety or aircraft fast training, but that's all the further your aviation experience goes. So this would be your gateway job to your dream job. Both of those would be. There are several other ones that I also talk about in my mentorship program and go into detail about how they can make it like to expand your resume and having private aviation experience. But this gets you started today. So what you would do is get on Google and look for FBOs in your area, which would be Signature and Atlantic are the two most common. Then there's other privately owned ones. And then Millionaire is in a lot of places. But Signature and Atlantic, Google them and see what positions they have available. This also comes back to the courage aspect of getting out from behind the computer and go meet them. And because you never know, let's just say, like I said, it's a gateway job. You never know. Maybe their CSR just got their dream flight attendant job and now that position's open and they've not had it posted. And then here you come marching in and then here you can have a job right away. You never know. Okay, so going to this, if you are wanting to work one-on-one with me, I have found where I have put myself right now is I think about where I was 4.5 years ago, submitting resumes and thinking, I wish somebody would just hold my hand. I wish somebody would tell me, step one, this is where I'm at right now. This is where I live. This is the experience that I have. This is my resume. What do I need to do next? What is step one? What is step two? What is step three? Can I skip step 2 and 3 and just go straight to 4? And if you have somebody that can help guide you through that and also hold you accountable, it's priceless. It is absolutely priceless. I wish I had that. I actually tried to find mentors and they would come and go. Some would stick around or they would sometimes be available. But there's a comfort factor of knowing that there's someone that I just got an ASAP trip. They want me to be at the airport in 3 hours. I don't have a clue. Am I supposed to go to Whole Foods? Am I supposed to pack? What am I supposed to pack? All of these questions that suddenly come up that you wouldn't think about if you're by yourself, but now that it's here in front of you, you're like, what do I do? What questions do I ask? And that's something else too, that like looking at some of the questions that came through is that when you don't know what you don't know what questions to ask. So if you don't know what questions to ask, you don't know what questions to ask to move you forward. So it's just kind of like you're flopping around on a fish on dry land. So if you're interested, and it is about a fit, working one-on-one, there's several. Lauren is a mentor. There's several mentors in the industry, and it is about a fit. Whether we work well together, is there a vibe? When we work together, do you feel encouraged when we're done? Do you feel motivated and empowered to accomplish the next step on your checklist? So if you want to work one-on-one with me, yoursinflight.com/calendar, and you can schedule a one-on-one call with me. I have also kept my afternoon open. So if you want to schedule a one-on-one call with me today, I'm going to put in the chat my WhatsApp link where you can message me, and I'm more than happy to visit with you after our call. All right, questions, comments, and I want this to be interactive. If you want to unmute yourself, feel free. I am more than happy to visit with you. Does anybody have any questions that they want to go through?
Hi, Miss Natalie. My name
Hello.
is I was super excited to attend your webinar today. My question is, I know you mentioned the price of the initial training anywhere ranging from 5,000, and I've been doing my research on that throughout the year, and they have one in Savannah, Georgia. I'm located in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Um, but I recently found one that was cheaper in Florida, and it was 3,000. But
Mhm.
I've seen some testimonials, but I haven't seen if anybody has booked any flights as of recently. And do you do any recommendations on other schools other than Da Vinci that might be cheaper? I know some people are doing like Christmas specials and deals and things of that nature right now, but do you have any that you would recommend for anybody that's needs to take their initial training and hope to take for the next 6 months?
I am a firm believer in air care facts and flight safety for safety training. Like those they are expensive. But they're also dynamite. Like they're very good at what they do. Also, another point to that is whenever you are applying for the jet management, the big jet management companies, Jet Aviation, Solaris, EJM, that's all they accept. They only accept those two. So whenever I see, I'm not here to talk down to any training whatsoever because training is better than no training. But as far as spending your money in a way that is that you will see benefit from it, a return is the word I'm looking for, an ROI on. I only promote facts and flight safety. So a caveat to that is Da Vinci is coming up in the ranks to start being recognized for safety training. I think there's one company that's like they're supposed to be, and within the next year being where it's basically rounded out where everybody accepts them. Are you referencing flight attendant training or are you referencing safety training? Did I answer your question?
I was referencing both. I believe the program covered both, like with water ditching and
Mhm.
plating, of that nature.
Okay. If I'm thinking of the one that you're thinking of, I recommend not.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
That's my personal opinion. Lauren, if you've got something to say, you feel welcome to.
I was actually just talking to my pilots about this the other day. We talk about just all the different trainings that are out there, and like if I could do it over again, what would I do, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that based on the FARs and everything and the standards, when you are done with facts and flight safety, you are qualified the next day to hop on a flight.
Mhm.
And that's like verbatim from one of my pilots. So I think, there are a lot of great trainings out there. And I do think there's certain things to take into consideration when you're choosing them too, like what you personally need. Like some people need the hospitality a little bit more than others and this and that. But I do think like as far as the gold standards go, to be able to be ready to go and fly and be, I don't like to use the word certified, but, have the training that all these companies are looking for, like it's worth it's an investment in your career. It's an investment. And that's what I tell people all the time too. Like, it's just super important to not penny pinch when it comes to things like this. If
Gotcha.
that.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that, Lauren. The penny pinching is very real because it can feel very daunting. I'm like, I'm spending all this money. Is it really gonna pay off for me?
Yeah, and it's a lot of money. Like it is what it is. And I think we've all felt that at one point where we're like, ooh, like here's my credit card, but it could change your life. So
So when you combine spending the money in the particular trainings that we're referencing, and then combining it with learning how to network and find your job, finding your fit where you belong, it'll come back a million times over. It really will. So thank you for that question. Is that helpful?
Yes, it was helpful.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that question. Does anybody else I have other questions on the side over here, but I want to honor the people that are here and see if there's any other questions I can help answer,
Can
whatever
I
they
just
are.
quickly ask? Hi, my name is
Hi.
Raquel.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too. I've been a flight attendant for God, coming up to 15 years,
Okay.
and I started in commercial and now work. I'll say it's not. I don't work in a private jet. I work in a larger private jet. I work in a 321 neo. Like it
Okay.
is a private jet.
Okay.
Don't really want to say who it's for, but
No.
but I have done all the training. I have done 4 seasons. I have done safety. I have done everything with aviation over the years. But I find that it doesn't matter, and I've done other courses as well. But I find it like it doesn't matter. I submit CVs all the time to get into like the smaller jets, and that's where I'm so stuck. So I'm a flight attendant, but I'm also, I guess, the experience manager within the company.
Okay.
So I deal with everything to do with the trips. I do around the world trips on this jet.
Okay.
And I deal with everything that is to do with service and everything that goes on within the jet. And I just find that even though I do get to meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of people, I'm still find in London, at least I'm in London, sorry.
Okay.
In
No, it's
London,
okay.
it's a very, very difficult place to actually get into business jets.
Okay. Okay, that's a very
Anything,
good.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Have you got any recommendations on what can I change about I don't know, because I feel like I've got so much already in my CV that I don't want to overload it either. But like you say, you apply and apply and apply and nobody replies to you, and it's so frustrating.
It is. It is. First, I want to say my expertise is the US and not anything outside of the US. So so anything that I share is with a grain of salt, because there is very different between each country is very different as far as Europe versus the US. Any country is very different. Second part to that is, are you familiar with Heidi Cole?
Yes.
Okay. Have you? I adore her. She's an absolute gem. I met her in person a few months ago. Like, I get goosebumps. I just love her. She would be a wonderful asset to reach out to if you haven't already. And so so the third aspect to that is, I am not familiar with what networking is like in Europe, but I would assume it was similar, based upon you have to have the fit when you're on board. So what has been your experience in networking locally?
So I have met a lot of people. So I've worked in a couple of air shows where you get just to meet all the owners and everyone. So that's quite good. And I work with a lot of American guests as well.
Okay.
Within this jet. I've got some friends that themselves are flight attendants. So they always say, if I hear anything, I'll send it your way and whatnot. And I'm in all the some of the WhatsApp groups. But the WhatsApp groups, you just have to be so fast as well, because there's so many people on them. So you could just be 1 second too late.
Okay. See that? Okay, that brings up an interesting point too, because I encourage my students, whenever there's a job like that, like, it's very easy to just like, oh my gosh, you're my stuff, hire me, like, just throw stuff at them. And so when you're in a hurry like that, you normally miss something. You normally overlook a spelling error, or you're addressing the wrong person, or you're not addressing the person at all, and you're saying hiring team or who it may concern. So there's a caveat to that too, in being the last second. So depends on how you ask on that aspect, because I always say, take a deep breath before you submit something, because you want to put your best foot forward as well, because of who you're serving. Yeah, I don't feel like I'm able to give you specific guidelines, because I am one that if I don't know something, I'm gonna tell you I don't know, because I really I don't, because I want people to be honest with me, so I'm gonna be honest with you too. But I really think Heidi would be a better fit to and she's so kind, as far as like just reaching out and DMing with her. She posts videos in the Facebook, like, she's just a beautiful human. So
yeah,
I would lean on her to see what she has to say, especially because that's where she lives, is in the UK.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you sharing as well. I'm fascinated by other parts of the world and how they operate like how private aviation is with them, because it is so different. So I appreciate any insight that you share as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see here. What other questions do people have? Miss Kai,
Hi.
I see you.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I do have a couple of questions. I'm taking photos of the notes that you put on. Is that okay?
Absolutely it is.
Do
I
you
appreciate
mind
you
if I do
asking.
that?
No, I do not at all. I appreciate you doing that. That's totally
Okay.
fine. Thank you for
If-
asking.
Okay, I would erase it otherwise. And then the second one is, do you think it's wise to sign up with, I guess there's kind of, there's are places where you can sign up where people can refer you to jobs? I think there's one in New
Okay,
York.
so the referring aspect comes from the networking, meeting people. So
Okay.
so answering your question, a place to sign up to refer. I guess it's maybe I'm thinking of a different word here. So like there's staffing agencies. Is that what you're referencing?
Yes, I believe I've done so much reading that it's kind of getting mixed up. So
It's
I
okay.
apologize ahead of time.
So
Yeah, it is a staffing agency. I think it costs about $150 to be on there for a year, and then they refer you to different companies if a company's looking for work.
So the one that I'm familiar that charges like $150 was flycontract.com used to do, I don't know if it's $150 anymore, but where you can submit your profile and people can go on there and look for you and like filter according to where you're located. So there's that aspect of it. So maybe, so this kind of comes back to like what questions to ask or not knowing what questions to ask. So let me just help you in this regard. There are staffing agencies that I highly recommend. Like you just got your flight safety training, right? Yes. Okay. So this comes back to the flight safety and air Carfax being recognized. In-flight crew connections, highly, highly recommend them. They're amazing. They're they're just amazing people. So I would sign up with them. So a staffing agency, specifically IFCC, who I just referenced, they have EJM is one of their biggest clients, that whenever they have charter that they need to have crew for, they will look through their database. IFCC will look through their database and call people locally for where they are to fulfill the trip. And there's several of those. IFCC, FCU, which is, there's several of them. You just have to look up you can Google flight attendant staffing agencies, and then you can submit your profile and then stay in touch with them. That's something I also talk about my mentorship, is as how to stay in contact with them so that way they know to call you whenever there's a trip that pops up.
Cool. Thank you.
Helpful? You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to keep looking and see if there's one that I can, or I'll take a look at this one.
Sure. Because I am looking at your form, whatever you submitted. You do have several on here, so I appreciate you asking the questions because it helps it helps others as well. Your very first one you asked is what's the most important advice you would give to a CFA, and hopefully I addressed that today in networking. That is your number one. That is the number one key. And then the other ones that you talk about on here, that's stuff that we can go through as you get your first trip, because it is like you're asking about checking passengers' luggage and how to address stuff like that. I want to be very cognizant of the right answers, or not right answers, the right questions, or questions that will actually be productive in helping move you forward. Because like, I remember when I was searching for all the answers of just trying to get information, it makes your brain very muddled of like, what's actually important. So whenever you are intaking all of this information, looking for free information on YouTube or wherever it is, you suddenly have all this information and you're just kind of going, this is a lot. Now what do I do? So you don't want to like infiltrate your brain with so much that you end up making yourself stuck.
Okay.
So whenever you,
I've been up at 3 a.m, actually even longer,
there.
even 4 a.m.
Yeah, I hear you.
Watching videos.
And even if it's not me, anybody here, I highly recommend having a mentor. Like it is so priceless because it helps that particular aspect of getting rid of the muck and the brain fog of like, what is actually important right now? I don't have work. That is number one. How do I find work? What is step one to find work? I have the training or whatever it is. What is step 1, 2, and 3? Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Who else has questions for me? I love this feedback. Yes. Yamila.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Good to hear from you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for this opportunity. There is one thing that just popped up in my brain with regards to what Raquel just said.
Okay.
You mentioned Heidi Cole.
Yes.
Apart from her, who I really admire, and I really follow her work as well. I'd like to just from a mentor's perspective, because we have been speaking yesterday on the Instagram as well. I'd like to suggest you, why don't you just most likely, probably, because I work with people from Europe as well, in commercial and private. I'd like to suggest you, why don't you just give it a thought about what you can actually provide that is very unique from your perspective that other candidates cannot. Because you just mentioned you have a really long career trajectory, all right? And certainly you have something very unique that is exactly what Natalie was saying today, how you brand and sell yourself. And just think about it from that perspective. And most likely you are going to start receiving what you put out there that is very unique. And Europeans, let me tell you this, because I think it's going to be valuable. It's not the same market as the US or in Argentina, where I'm actually right now, or the UAE, which is another market that I've flown for 10 years. They really value quality. They really value uniqueness. And that probably is going to make you stand out. And probably Heidi Cole will also agree on that. Just a tiny thought, a humble thought, that's going to make you stand out and shine. Probably, hopefully.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that comment. I'm glad you're here too. I appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
Very welcome. And I appreciate you bringing this to my attention and reminding me because I've been so focused on connecting with people today, because I feel like that's where I personally have lacked in the past, is actually having that one-on-one connection with people. And what I offer is how to find work. Like I do not teach flight attendant training. I don't teach safety training. I teach you how I got work and seeing the importance of networking. And where if you could have the best resume and the best experience, but if they don't know you, they're not gonna if they don't know you, they won't flow you. They won't hire you because they don't know who you are. So first of all, what I offer is hand holding per se. Like I give you like that step 1, 2, 3, making sure you don't go to the wrong training. You go to training that you end up spending useless money that is like, you thought it was great. I did that. I went to a training that I luckily had a scholarship, and come to find out after I got into the industry, it is not recognized at all. In fact, it's kind of got a bad rep. So it's having someone to hold your hand to be able to make sure that you're spending your money wisely and in the right direction and you're on the right track. Finding work and branding yourself, like Emilia was talking about, is like, I don't see that a lot. I don't see people teaching. Miss Lauren does. Miss Lauren teaches about branding, but that's something that I think is really something that's lacking in the new to industry flight attendants, that they are branding themselves without knowing it. And so I help bring that awareness in, branding yourself in a way that is like, oh, I want her on my jet. I would love to be able to work with her. Like that's what you want pilots to be saying. You want operators to be saying that. So thank you again for bringing that up, Mr. Emilia. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you being here. All right. What else? Anybody else have anything else? I will address one. Go ahead. I hear a mic. Somebody else have something?
I do.
Go ahead.
So, sorry, I'll let you go first, Robert. I think you've been waiting.
Mr. Robert, what do you have? What question? It's nice to meet you. Okay, if you have a question, just speak up and we'll be happy to hear it. All right, make sure I'm saying your name right. Is it Mayuna?
Mayana.
Mayana. Okay, Miss Mayana, what question do you have?
So with resume building, does it help, or would it be more of a loss if to invest in like taking BART? Because I come from serving in like the film industry before the strike. But does it benefit taking like maybe classes on how to make coffee or bartending classes to make drinks? Like if a guest wants like things made a certain way, but you're not used to like doing pouring anything other than wine or beer.
Any training is better than no training. I will say that. It's so if that's something that you don't feel comfortable at all, like if you don't come from any kind of drinking background or you're not even familiar with the difference between whiskey and vodka, sure, I suggest doing something like that so that way you can know, just get a feel of what things are like in that regard. I have not seen an importance necessarily in it as far as like whether I would get a job or not because I had a specific bar training or mixology training or whatever. But if that is something that you feel like you need some more awareness, understanding of, then sure, highly recommend that.
Natalie, can I add something
You
to
sure
that?
can.
I just want to note that there's a lot, if there's something that interests you, I think you absolutely should go, YouTube has billions of videos on there, right? So like there's a lot of free classes and a lot of different things you can do. If nothing else, just because it interests you. I was a Starbucks manager for 3 years. So like when I first started, one of the things that I sort of emphasized was, my coffee knowledge, right? So like, and that was something to remain memorable by. So, if there's something that you enjoy, like hone in on it, learn a little bit more about it. I don't think there's anything, like Natalie said, you won't get a job because of that, probably. But I think any skill set that you can add to keep learning and keep getting it better at, different parts of this job is never a bad idea.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Excellent point. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. But the coffee, that's cool. Very cool.
It worked.
Yeah, I love that. Just to kind of do a bridge between questions, there was someone that asked a segue from full-time to contract finding 91 accounts. I'm gonna give my little thought on that, and then I may ask Miss Lauren to give her take on that because she has been on a 91 account for a few years. I can say it could be scary, and I would understand that it would be scary going from full-time and you having that consistent paycheck and even health benefits and benefits in general. And then contracting opens up a whole other can of worms of creating a business for yourself. And you have to that's where your income is reliant upon, is how much you have been networking. I'm also a believer that if that is what you feel is you're being called to, because I think that most of the time, like the charter part 135 is like the gateway to the 91. Some people stay in 135 forever. That's fine. But I think it's like that you reach that point where you will want to transition, and you just have to, if you think, feel in your gut that it's time to do that, I say go for it. And then it comes back to the training I talked about today in the networking aspect of it, is that you have to make yourself known in the industry. So that way you can start finding your 91. Lauren, you have anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I have experience in 135, 91, and a little bit of contract. And something I tell people too is like Natalie said, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I think if you are looking for that 91, contracting is a really good way to see what's out there. What kind of aircraft do you like to fly in? What kind of people do you like to fly with? What sort of trips do you enjoy doing? Clients you enjoy working with? And if you've already established yourself in some way in the, after having a full-time job, utilize your connections, like nourish those connections, because they're the ones who are going to be able to like sort of point you in a direction and recommend you. And like Natalie said, nobody's going to recommend you if they don't know you. So, if you are looking for that 91, I do hear of people quite a bit. I mean, and in fact, now that I'm saying it, in my experience, they land those 91s from doing those contract flights, and really, impressing them and getting a good feel for it. Not everybody's dream 91 is the same either. So that, like my position is what I call unicorn account. Somebody would hate it. So you don't know what you don't know. You got to get out there and experience it and learn it. And it's a great confidence builder as well. You gain confidence by doing and experiencing. So yeah, I would say go for it.
Awesome. That was very helpful. Thank you for that. And thank you, Amelia, for coming. I'm so glad. It's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for coming. Let's see here. Any other questions? Did that pop up any question? I love hearing Lauren's insight. This is a prime example of supporting each other. Like she has her mentorship, I have mine. We both have very different lives, but yet here we are, we're working together, we support each other. We have different views. Anyway, I appreciate your insight. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course. I'm so happy to be on here. I'm sitting in a hotel room today.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Let's see. Any other questions that I have not addressed? I do want to honor your time and not drag this out. We have been here almost an hour, but I'm looking through my forms to make sure I've not missed any other questions. Mr. Robert, you got a question for me?
No, that's how
Well, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for coming.
no, but if I wanted to be a flight attendant, how can I do it?
How do you do it?
Yes.
There's a lot to that question. You can start with the stuff that we've talked about today in networking, making yourself known in the industry, probably doing a gateway job. They go into one of your local FBOs, like Atlantic or Signature, and seeing if they have a job there as a gateway job.
Because I've been working with the airlines for years, doing
Okay.
ramp.
Okay. Well, maybe a line tech at an FBO might be your transition over. I bet they would hire you on the spot.
No, but I work with UPS doing the cargo part. I don't work with the regular airlines.
Okay. It's still, I still think that that would be a good fit for you to get started. So that way you can see, because commercial and that's something I go into quite a bit, is like, because I come from Delta and thinking that they're very much alike, and they're not at all, at all. So starting over, like not starting over, scratch that, transitioning over to the private side on working at an FBO as a line tech, that would help transition your thinking into how business aviation works. Because even commercial is different than cargo, and cargo is different than those two. So I think that would be helpful to start transitioning your thinking in that regard.
Yes, I'm trying to get into the private jet, but I don't know how to get into the private.
I would get on Google and look up Signature FBO or Atlantic FBO, and just look for
Okay.
local FBOs where you're located and see if they have any job postings.
Okay.
I would start there.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your question. Let's see here. So I'm looking at the chat with Miss Christie's question. There's a lot of emphasis. Okay, so answering the first question, is it absolutely essential when trying to move? For those that are watching the recording, let me read the message. There is a lot of emphasis on culinary expertise. Is that absolutely essential when trying to move to contracting? Short answer is no, it is not absolutely essential. I have decent knowledge, but not chef or expert. Neither am I. But I am very good at plating, great with catering. I hope the question is clear. Absolutely it is. That was actually a fear of mine when I first started. I thought I had this vision of like, I had to create these artistic things on things. Like I was just like, I have no idea what to do with this. I know how to cook. I know how to make your belly, like your belly happy. But as far as like plating and stuff like that, I had absolutely no clue. So it was intimidating to me as well. So I can relate to your question. So it was actually very relieving to learn that no, you don't have to have that at all. If you're starting out in the 135, the charter aspect of it, or contracting, which is what a good majority of people start out doing, you have to learn how to just unwrap things that are coming from the caterer and present it in a presentable fashion. It really is that simple. But in order to stand out from the crowd, just put it on your radar in the future. Apply for scholarships or invest in culinary training I recommend Da Vinci, hands down, in Fort Lauderdale. But answering your question, it is not essential. Nope, not at all. Miss Tina, what's up? How are you?
Doing better, thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I haven't been well. This has been a tough week for me. Anyway, but that aside, I wanted to schedule a one-on-one with you and follow up with some things. So that was basically what I wanted to say.
Awesome. We can do
Yeah.
that. We can do that.
Okay.
Miss Tina is one of my students from a few months ago, and she's actually got an interview this coming week. We're going to go through some things with that, which is very exciting. But yes, more than happy
Yeah,
to do that with you.
I am excited about
It's
it.
very cool.
Yeah, yeah. We live in the Tucson area, and we go around to Phoenix, Mesa, Tempe, Scottsdale, and in the greater Tucson area, and we drop off our resumes and things like that. And it's beneficial doing that, very beneficial. I've actually just walked into some FBOs, into some private um executive air, and some others. I can't think of the name right off the top, but just walked in and introduced myself, say hi, can I leave my resume, and they're always wonderful and willing. And so yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. You are exemplifying what I've been talking about in the training today, is going to the FBOs. What was your personal experience in actually handing resumes at the FBOs?
Those were some of the nicest airports I have ever been in. My God, they were absolutely, they had vintage cars displayed. One of the FBOs did, and one of the airport, private airport areas. They also had car rentals, but the Scottsdale area is a little bit more upper scale, if you will, than what the Tucson area is. And they pride in that. They take a lot of pride in it. And it's very wow. You could eat off the floor. It was so plain. It was just really, it was really nice. But the people were extremely nice, and always willing to help. And seemingly we stopped in, I mean, totally unannounced. And I don't like that myself, because I come from a real estate background. And if you didn't have an appointment with me and you just showed up, so sorry, you didn't have my time. You didn't book it in advance. And I try to be sensitive to that. But it was a threshold I had to cross over, and kind of a fear I had to get past, because I didn't have a strong comfort level in doing that. And I was like, I can do this. And I just walked right in. I said, hey, how you doing? And, just struck up a conversation. And, one thing led to another. And plus I did it in the rain, the pouring rain.
So it took a lot of courage to get out of your car in the rain. Very
It
good.
did. I mean, the Phoenix area, Tucson, we don't get a lot of rain, but we did that day, and it was a deluge. And I think it's kind of impressive whenever people see that you're willing to jump out of your comfort zone and run through a parking lot and go in to visit somebody. And we caught a lot of people off guard, and but they were very kind, very receptive, and said, oh yeah, absolutely, I'll take your resume and move it upstairs for you, or whatever. So
thank you for sharing that, because I that's common. Thank you for sharing also about being hesitant in the very beginning. It does take courage. That was one of the first things I talked about in the presentation today, was new to industry mistakes they make is they lack courage, because you have to have it. You have to have it.
So paid off, because now I have an interview.
There you go. There you go.
Yep. So yeah.
Appreciate that. Very, very good. Okay. Well, I am going to call it a day, unless anybody has any pressing questions that's come up that I can help address. Nope. Okay. So what I have done is one more. Okay, go ahead, Miss Christie. Miss Christie has one more question. So while you're typing that out for me, I put my WhatsApp in the chat, which is the link, and it goes directly to my WhatsApp, where you can contact me directly if you want to visit one-on-one this afternoon. I'm more than happy to do that with you, to see if you want to do mentorship with me. I would be honored to do so, and to see if we're a fit. And then if you don't want to go that route, you can do and if you don't have the link to be able to grab it right now, if you go to the website yoursandflight.com/calendar, that is where my calendar is, that you can schedule a one-on-one time with me. So going on to Miss Christie's question is, how many times is too many to drop off a resume? I don't want to be assertive. I want to be assertive, but not pushy. That's a great question. That is a very great question. And let's see. So I'm going to reference Scott Arnold, my mentor in this, because he has a course called The Professional You, and he addresses this specifically. And there is an etiquette in dropping off a resume. What I would do, first of all, ask if it's welcome. I would start with a business card. It just depends on it really depends upon the setting. So like I'm thinking of like NBAA, you're handing out business cards, you don't want to have a resume there. You want to have your business card with a QR code that goes to your resume. I would just do one. Like it really is. I'm trying to think of a blanket way of answering this, and it's really not a blanket way because each situation is unique. But I would stick with one. The safe way is one. And then even in that one, make sure it's welcome. Ask them, may I like strike up a conversation with them first. Don't just walk up to them and say, can I hand you my resume? Look and make it about them, because whenever you talk to people and make it about them, they're more open to what you have to say. People love talking about themselves. It's just human nature. So if you're coming up talking about yourself, it's a turnoff, and they're more than likely not listen to you. So start with one after you've had a one-on-one conversation with them and say, are you looking to accept resumes, or is it possible for me to give you one to have on hand, and go from there. But if passing out multiple ones, I can't really think of an instance where that would be, unless Lauren can help me think of another one. I don't think of it as being really an accepted. It's kind of gross, icky feeling if you give more than once, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so somebody who I work with, she's been in this industry for a bit, and we just revamped her resume. So I think like in that situation, that would be okay. Like say you had a resume, and time went by and you've, gotten more experience and you've added to it. I think that would be appropriate to give another resume. But I agree with Natalie, there's a fine line between being persistent and pesky. And you want to walk that line delicately.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, because your resume needs to be alive. It needs to be always revamped.
I just updated mine the other day.
Yep. If I'll look at what I have it I have it specifically saved on my desktop, so it's an easy drag and drop. And whenever I do, before I drag and drop it to wherever, I look at the date that I've had it saved, just to think about where I was at that time in my life, even though if it was a month ago. Things in my life changed so fast that I just think about, what have I done differently over the past month? Is there something that I need to add, or something but yeah, a revamped resume. That is a very good point that I hadn't thought about. There we go. All right. Anything else pressing that I could help answer? Well, thank you guys for coming today. Stay tuned to your emails, because I will be sending. You're welcome, Ms. Sky. I see your body language. I will be sending out the recording via email, so stay tuned for that. So if there's something that you missed or you want to go back and reference, feel free to do so. I appreciate your time today. I don't take that lightly. There are many people that are in this industry that want to share what they've got, and so you choosing me to help you, guide you in the direction that you want to go, I consider that an honor. So thank you for that. And again, if you want to work one-on-one, you can reach out to WhatsApp. And I will put the link one more time in the chat, just in case you missed it. You can reach out to me directly there, or yoursinflight.com/calendar. If you want to email, you're welcome to do that at natalie@yoursinflight.com. And I'm going to stop there, because there's many ways you can get in contact with me, but those are the few. Anyway, thank you very much for being here, and I appreciate you all very much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.